When you're looking to start a business, you want to think about three things. The first thing you want to think about is accountability. One day at a time, what are the activities I need to do to move to my goal, and focusing on those things you can control.
Had to rise up just so they could see me.
Second thing is you need to have leverage. I think there's the value in you honing your craft, sitting in the pain for long, and building what really you care about, even if you're not seeing the immediate results, because in the long term, that's definitely going to reward you in the long term. It doesn't feel very apparent from in day one, day two, but by day 100, by day 150, by day 3000, but there's this process of becoming by doing. And then the last thing is judgment. So being able to make the right decision at the right time. The real success stories are not people who just come from nowhere. No, they've been doing this thing for a long time, and you only see them when they've actually started to become big. And that's kind of how I look at the word is dream big. And sometimes you will fail, and that's part of the process. But you gotta dream big first. Success will follow.
Yes, sir. We recording? Yes, we are. I think so. Welcome back to the Tool for Rise podcast, where we document the rise and stardom of Winnipeg's talent and personalities. Welcome back to the number one podcast in Winnipeg. We got some crazy guests for you lined up, and especially today as well. Introduce us, man.
Let's bring on our guest for today. He's a business coach who started multiple businesses. He's here to talk about how you can do it as well. Please welcome David Owasi.
Let's go.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Yeah.
First of all, you look fresh. I've said it multiple times, but I'm going to say it again.
It's your kind, my friend.
You look fresh.
Yeah.
I wish I looked that good, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
So you're a business coach.
That's right.
And we were looking through your profile like yesterday, and we're like, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Because you coach people in business. What is your background in business that qualifies you as a business coach?
Of course. So I was originally born in Nigeria.
Mhm.
Came to Canada when I was 17, and I studied at the U of M, studying computer science and business. But then and the reason why I actually was interested in business and computer science combined was because my people I look up to were the Elon Musk and the Steve Jobs. So if you can combine business and technology, you could build monster things, right?
Yeah.
So that was kind of where I got started. But then I was very, very interested in getting some practical experience of business too. It's not just staying in class and listen to some boring old professor teach about business. I went to have real experience. So I started my first company, which was a very simple business, really. It was a College Pro franchise. We painted houses in the city. So that was where I really got my real exposure into business. And then it was I would in the winters I would go to homeowners, knock on their doors, ask for, hey, can I paint your house? Like, can I do an estimate for you? It was a very old-fashioned, traditional type of marketing. And then from there on in the summer, I would hire university students to go do those jobs, and I was able to expand and do almost $1 million in a couple of years in revenue from that business. So that was like my real introduction into business. And that was so good because I made so many mistakes. I screwed up so much, but I learned too. Everything from marketing, how to hire people, how to lead a crew, all of that fun stuff. And then from there on, I started to do a whole bunch of consulting. Again, I won some awards, and people were asking me, hey, how did you do that? How did you do that? And then I found myself coaching sort of without even knowing it.
Yeah.
And then I realized I was actually good at this, and I really enjoyed it too, which is very, very crucial. And that was really how I got my start in business coaching. And then since then, I've run multiple businesses, but I still love coaching and working with one-on-one with entrepreneurs. And now my business has actually, evolved into more like an agency, a marketing agency, where I focus on lead generation. I found that when I coach people, they're like, okay, David, can you help me with the practical stuff? Like, how do I go out and get leads? And these days, you're not knocking on doors anymore. That's really outdated. So it was actually a fun challenge for me to learn all the strategies to generate leads for my own business and then teach it to my clients. And I started really working, and I'm like, well, this could be a service on its own where I'm able to leverage my time by actually helping people generate leads for their business. So those are the core of the things I do today. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome though. If you want to learn about business, you have to step away from that classroom setting, because we have this joke that if you want to learn about marketing, you're not going to be taking a marketing class. You're going to be going out there and doing marketing. So I'm curious to see what was that learning curve for you? Obviously starting a business is one of the hardest things you can do. So what was that initial step, and how did you learn and continue to learn?
Yeah, so absolutely, that's a very good question. And the interesting thing is that the advantage for me at the time was that there was nothing to lose, really. The only thing I would lose was fail, and fail. I was still living with my parents, so it couldn't get any worse than that. So, but yeah, you're right. Taking action, imperfect actions is really where you get to learn. And for me, I was very lucky that I surrounded myself with a lot of like-minded people who were willing to experiment, who were willing to learn, who were willing to try different things out. And those things really, really helped me. I learned the traditional ways of marketing, and then I evolved that learning into the more sophisticated tools. For example, like I said, we started out by knocking on doors. That was our old-fashioned marketing. I learned how to present myself, elevator pitch in 30 seconds. I probably did it like 10,000 times. And that really, really helped me hone my skill in marketing, from presenting myself to a new person who I've never met before to, getting people to buy into my idea. And that is such a crucial skill that you don't even learn in classrooms, by facing a real customer who doesn't really give a crap about you, really. All they care is what's in it for them, and being able to very, very quickly articulate what's in it for them very quickly in 30 seconds and doing that 10,000 times. Man, you're going to go places if you learn skills like that. So that was very, very helpful for me.
But it's definitely like more of like repetition based, right? Like the more reps you get in, the more better you are, because you're a well-spoken person now. But were you like this when you first started?
Absolutely not.
And so how did you build on that, and how did you get better and better?
Yeah, so when I came from Nigeria, I had a bit of a heavy accent. Some of my accent's still there, which is perfectly makes me unique, if you will. That being said, though, a lot of coaching. So I surrounded myself with people who I wanted to learn from, and people who I gave the I give them the, what's the right word here? I give them the ability to critique me and give me feedback. I actually welcomed and I asked for feedback every single time. So, for example, I would go do an estimate with a client, and I will have somebody who is more experienced come with me. And this person will sit through the estimate or the appointment with the clients. And then after it, they will take a note, and I will give them the permission to give me all the feedback and critique. And even my girlfriend at the time, or wife now, I would like have her listen to my calls, and I would like tell me, give me critique, like how can I become better? And I also put myself in situations where I was uncomfortable. So for example, I would kind of find ways to get myself into debates or into like podcasts like this, or situations where I'm speaking, I'm projecting my ideas, and in those situations I also still welcome feedback. So again, it's just feedback, being vulnerable, being open to feedback, and not taking it personally, but seeing it as an opportunity to grow and improve. And the more you put yourself in situations where people can give you feedback and you really accept it and you try and improve on yourself, that makes such a difference over time. It doesn't feel very apparent from in day 1, day 2, but by day 100, by day 150, by day 3000, you start to like, oh, wow, I've come such a long way from how I present my ideas, from how I say things, and that makes such a difference over a long period of time.
100%, man. Like getting feedback, like, is one of the crucial steps of life, right? Like, but it's like when you're always, for example, like, I don't know, you get feedback, but sometimes you're like, I did that right. Like, I know from my place it's coming from a good heart. So, like, there's always that moment, but then after you realize, it's like, oh, that's what we were talking about. So have you ever had that, like, realization?
Absolutely. And, one of the books I've been reading a lot recently is Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Great book.
Yeah, very good book. And it talks about a couple of things. There's this feedback loop where you want to become something and you're not perfect at that thing you want to become yet. But there's this process of becoming by doing. And that process of becoming, so let's give a more concrete example. So you want to become a better writer, for example. Like, I'm trying to improve my writing skills, and that's been one of my top skills this year that I'm working on. But you become a better writer by writing, and you become a better writer by writing daily, and you become a better writer by having better writers critique your work and give you feedback so you can become a better writer. So there's always that feedback loop where you want to become something. So, for example, I know personally growing up that I wanted to become a great business person. I wanted to become a great salesperson, a great marketing person, but I knew that I didn't have all those skills. And relying on people to give me the feedback I needed to become that person that I had in my goal, and then working on those skills daily myself, a combination of those things was really what helped me get there. And still getting there, because we're not quite there yet.
Well, because you work on it every day, it gives you the chance to adapt as well, right? Because you're saying that you used to do marketing door-to-door knocking, but now most of the marketing is digital, most of social media, the new apps, TikTok, all of these short-form content. So what was your adaptation like, and how did you adapt to that? Like, it's a different world.
Absolutely.
Marketing 2 years ago is not the same now, even 10 years ago.
Definitely. Lots of reading, that's for sure. So I am a big believer in just stacking information. But again, when you stack information, that is not enough. You need to be able to use this information in a practical way and get some real world feedback. And basically, some of the things I did was I started dabbling into content creation. I actually started my own podcast where I did about 35 to 40 straight episodes. And the reason was not for, to be the next, Joe Rogan or anything. I know that's the goal here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But the goal was to get myself into a position where I'm actually speaking to a mic and I'm vocalizing my ideas and I'm getting comfortable addressing an audience online. And when it comes to marketing and content creation, like that is very, very crucial, being able to be comfortable expressing yourself. So when I want to stack up on a skill, I'm more of an action person. I just do. And in doing, you're forced to learn. And in doing, you're almost making a commitment to the public that this is what I want to do. And by making that commitment, the public is holding you accountable. It's like building a company in public almost. And by that, you're forcing yourself to learn. You're forcing yourself to get feedback from other people who are listening to you. And I got so much feedback, and I got a lot of good and positive and some negative feedback too. Yeah, but all in all, you only get better by doing. And if marketing, you get better by doing. For example, I've been dabbling a lot with TikToks. I'm not very comfortable with the whole dancing thing, but I'm trying my hand in producing content that's a little bit more different from like a straight up just talk to the mic kind of thing. Yeah. Which has been a learning curve for me. But, I actually produced a content yesterday, which was very, very different from what I would normally do. Sure. But all of those things, putting yourself in situations where you can be uncomfortable really, really makes a difference for you.
That's important, right? Like, most people don't start businesses because they're so overwhelmed by the idea of just like, oh, what is the public going to think? Like, I'm not comfortable doing this and that. The most important thing is just do it, right? I love the way you said that. So how did you end up starting your own business? Like, I know people say always a lot of hard work, but like steps wise. So like, how did you start that first business in university? You're a computer science student. It's tough. I've taken coding classes. It's not fun. Like Python was one of the hardest courses I've taken. But how did you start that business?
Yeah. So just kind of think more from a philosophical point of view. When you're looking to start a business, you want to think about three things. The first thing you want to think about is accountability. And accountability is having some skin in the game. Yeah. It's being able to put your hands up and be like, I will take responsibility and ownership for this. And for my business of painting houses, it was like, I'm going to make your house beautiful so that when you want to sell it, it's going to be looking great from the curb. And or just for the pride in the neighborhood, I'm the guy to do that for you. So you need accountability in whatever business you want to do. You can't hide behind something. You have to be able to put your name behind your work. So that's very, very crucial. And then once you have the accountability figured out and you're willing to take that risk and there's only so much that can go wrong, but you need to be able to put your name out there. That's the first. Second thing is you need to have leverage. And leverage is a way of being able to scale whatever effort you're putting into the business. And there are 4 levers of leverage. So the first one is code, using technology to scale your enterprise. And why code is important is because whether it's one person or 10 people or 15,000 or 1 million people using it, you write the code once and then you can leverage that code. So you need to find a way to leverage whatever it is you're trying to build. So one way is code. Second way is social media. So like this podcast, it doesn't matter if 100 people are listening to it or 1 billion people, we're not doing any more work. So social media is a great way of leveraging your business. And then the third way to leverage your business is labor. So hiring people to do work for you. Now you can duplicate yourself and you can have many people doing stuff for you. And then the fourth way is capital, by raising money. Now that's very hard. But if you can raise money, well, they say money makes you more money, right? So you can use money to duplicate your efforts. So finding a combination of those 4 things is going to make your business scale. So number one, you have accountability, you have some skin in the game, you're making a bold, big promise to a customer by solving a specific problem. Then you're finding a way to leverage those skill set you have through code, through capital, through labor, and through social media. And then the last thing is judgment. So being able to make the right decision at the right time. Who do I bring on as a partner? Who do I hire? Where do I go find help? Who do I work with? Who do I partner with? And that comes over time. But those 3 things are what you need to be combining to really be able to build a successful business. You need to find something you can put your name behind, find a way to scale that thing, and then make the right decision in the tough moments. And that's how I would think about starting a business. A little kind of high level, but I hope that helps.
That's actually very informative because, we're dabbling into business. We're not business experts as yourself, but we kind of did those things just like without actually laying them out, sort of, as in like, it just happened naturally. Had we had a coach, it would have been maybe more effective. But sometimes when we look at businesses, like you mentioned Elon Musk and those guys earlier, you look at where they are now, right? You see that, oh, they're worth 200 billion. Oh my God, I want to be that. But sometimes the hardest thing is the first sale, and people give up before they even start because they're like, I thought I was going to make 200 billion tomorrow. Yeah. But man, like nobody's viewed my thing. No one's clicked on the thing. So what is, like, let's say it's like similar to like if it's a service business, right? Like you're offering a service. What is something they can do with no like skin in the game, with nothing? How can someone just make that first sale? Because I'm sure after that it snowballs.
Right. Yeah. So that's sort of a framework I use to think about that, and I call it the 3P framework.
Okay.
And the first P is you need to, for starters, start working on something you're passionate about. Sure. And the reason why is because, for example, this podcast, I can tell you guys are very passionate about this. Whether you make money from it or you don't make money from it, you're clearly having tons of fun. Yeah. And it's very, very crucial that whatever it is you decide to dabble into in business, that you actually enjoy and love it. And if no one is paying you for it, you will still do it. Mm-hmm. And the reason why that is crucial is because you'll be able to outwork anybody because you love this thing anyways. So that's the first lever. You need to be able to be passionate about this thing. And then the second thing is you need to be able to connect that passion to a problem. So, for example, in this case here, the passion is content creation. It's interviewing people, the talent in Winnipeg. But if you're able to connect that to a specific problem I have, which is maybe exposure of your business to the bigger public, which is marketing, or finding a way to say you are maybe a writer, connecting writing to copywriting, which is writing copy to promote your business. Now you're connecting your passion to a specific problem someone has. So once you're able to find a problem that connects what you're passionate about, then you're really, you have someone you can sell something to. Mm-hmm. And you enjoy doing that thing anyway, so it's not going to be any extra work. So that's the second thing is problem. And the last lever of the P is perspective. So you have your own personal history experience, how you see the world, how you see things. And if you're able to connect your own personal history to the passion and the problem, now you have a very unique solution that is specific to you that no one else can offer. And then that's the basic combination of product that someone will pay money to you for. And a good example is this. Again, I'll use the example of writing. So maybe I've been writing about, romance, or I've been writing about, say, business topics, right? And I'm very passionate about that. And I'm able to then connect my writing to a specific problem by writing a copy that you can use on your ads or on your website. And then because of my own personal history, writing books or writing blogs or whatever, I have my own interesting way I've learned how to write that no one can write the way I write. And that's very, very unique, right? Then you can package that as a solution and say, we'll write copy for your website that will convert. And then you can say, I've been writing for 10 years now or 5 years now. And my combination of all those three things is able to then create a business or a solution to a problem that a client has using my own specific approach and using my own specific way of doing things that will definitely help you solve a specific problem. So connecting passion to a problem and then using your own perspective, that is how you build a business that you can start charging money for.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's actually a good way to think about it,
Yeah.
Because you're right, we do love doing this, and this is amazing. Whether we make money from it or not, like we love doing this. And I assume you're the same way in terms of your business. You love coaching people. You love doing those things. But as everyone knows, there's high moments and then there's low moments. Did you have any of those low moments? And then how do you combat those? Like, what if you don't get sales for 6 months in a row or a couple months in a row, or people are coming but they're not converting?
Absolutely.
So then how do you deal with that, either both mentally and then actually changing that?
Yeah. So before I actually started this coaching business properly, so I used to just do it as a side gig in the past. I was actually working for a recruiting firm. I was a consultant helping them hire, accountants, CFOs, all kinds of accountants for companies here in Winnipeg. And then the pandemic hit and I lost that job. And then I have a family to take care of. Like I have a 2-year-old boy now. And I was out of a job, and then I was like, hey, I'm going to start this business. And then, I wanted to do this seriously, but no leads were coming in, no revenue were coming in. And it was like a couple months in, I was struggling. And I think for me, what kept me going was relying on the experience I had in my first company. And it's always very important that you're able to rely on old experiences to project you even forward into the future. And in my first company, I remember that I struggled a lot to find my first clients. It took me actually 3 months before I found my first painting contracts for my business. And I remember I knocked on hundreds and hundreds of doors, but something was just not clicking until it then clicked, and then everything started to just fall into place. So that was so helpful to have that experience when I started this new company, because I struggled to generate my first clients in the first couple of months. I was spending a whole bunch of money, paying all of this for all the services to get this business going, but the results were not coming in. So a lot of perseverance was very much needed, and patience, very patient. I think sometimes we're always rushing the process, and we're not patient enough to know that it's okay if you're not seeing results right now. And it stacks over time. Just like when you go to the gym and you're trying to bulk up, and you were talking about bulking up.
Yes, sir.
The first day, the first week, you're not seeing nothing, right? It doesn't mean nothing is happening, but it stacks up over time. And in James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, it talks about how those atomic little small efforts over time significantly adds up. And it talked about how if you put in 1% effort every day of the year, and you total up that effort, it's going to add up to almost like 30% in combined effort by the year's turn. And that's really what it's all about. It's the day-to-day. It's the small processes. It's this, one day at a time. What are the activities I need to do to move to my goal, and focusing on those things you can control. We can focus on things that are outside our control. And then when you do that, results start to come in inevitably, because with enough passion, connecting that to a problem, and with enough activities that are, moving the needle, eventually just a matter of time. So sometimes we miss it in the patience angle. You have to be patient as well. And that's what I did. And then eventually I figured it out, and my business started to grow really well. So it's been a very interesting journey for sure.
Yeah, a lot of people don't take that process, like the process of building a business, the process of staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning, working on a business while you work at 8 a.m. the next day, right? People don't believe in that process now, because we have apps like TikToks where you see, for example, the island boards. We didn't know who they were. They're blown up now, right? So I'm curious to see, from your perspective, do you think it's the short-term game? For example, you blow up on TikTok one day, you get that bag, or is it more about having longevity in your business?
Yeah, so it really depends on what you're trying to accomplish. I'm always in the believer for the long term. The long term always wins. If you follow Gary Vee, he preaches about this a lot. He talks about the long term. The short term, if that's what you're looking for, then that's okay. But if you're looking for some long term success, and long term success means you're able to capitalize on whether it's your skill set that you've honed over the years, or an audience that you've really built over the years, or a business that you've learned very well, then the long term is always going to win over the short term. I'm always a believer in the long term. And Gary Vee always talks about how we're young, we always have time, and that's one of the things he's always big on. I'm 27, I believe I have time. You guys are still in your early 20s, you still got lots of time. So it's very easy in this age to see people blow up on social media and be jealous and feel like, oh, I want that. But that's good for them. It doesn't mean that's good for you. I think there's the value in you honing your craft, sitting in the pain for long, and building what really you care about, even if you're not seeing the immediate results, because in the long term, that's definitely going to reward you in the long term. When you look at famous athletes, the LeBron James and the Kobe Bryant, those guys didn't just start balling, when you found them. They've been balling for since they were small, since they were 5, 6. And they built that skill up to they were 18, 19, 20, and then they started to then see all the awards. And then we celebrate them as, oh, these are the big stars. We look at someone like Drake as well. He's been writing music for years and years. So the real gamers, or the real success stories, are not people who just come from nowhere. No, they've been doing this thing for a long time, and you only see them when they've actually started to become big, but they've put in that work day in, day out, just like an iceberg, right? You see the tip right above the water, but if you look below, there's so much going on down there. And I think people have to focus and remember that if you want to be a success like that too, it doesn't start, you don't become a success tomorrow. And if anything, even if you blow up very quickly and you're not ready, it turns into self-destruction, because you've not built all the habits and all the steps you need to maintain that level of productivity and output. You need to hone that over years. And when you do that, that's when success is very much long-lasting, because you've built all the required skills to keep and maintain that success. That's why Drake can keep putting hit after hit after hit, because he knows the process of grinding out an album, because he's done it so many times. And that's why the famous ballers, the basketball players. I'm more of a soccer fan, but
Yes.
for the reference here, I'm using basketball. But that's why they keep producing, because they have learned the habits. Wake up, the Michael Jordans, right? They wake up, they go to the gym, they work out every day, every day, every day. And excellence for them is an everyday process. And you only get to see the reward when they're out in the courts. And, that's when the fans and everyone is kind of celebrating them. But the real work is really what they've been doing in the background, in the shadows. And the same thing applies to entrepreneurship as well.
I agree. I personally think it's honestly better to like not blow up right away, because even if you look at some artists, like, some artists, one song goes hit and then they're still chasing that. But they're, like you said, they haven't put in that work. They haven't figured out the recipe to like actually create that, which is very interesting in like in the world we live in, especially in content, because you'll see like peers go, oh, I got 1 million views, but what do you do with those 1 million views?
Yeah.
Right? Like, okay, you got 1 million views now, but what do you do? Like, do you push them to a product? Do you push them to your website, email list, or tomorrow there's not, because it's an attention game at the end.
Exactly.
Right? So in terms of your business, or when you coach people, how do you focus on like the attention aspect? Because,
Right.
Attention's getting smaller and smaller by the day, especially with younger folks, like our age or even younger, right?
Right.
So how do you get the attention that you need?
Right. So I always sort of like two answers. The first one is, in the practical sense, is having the foundations to get your business ready for success, because you're only as ready. Success is when preparation meets opportunity.
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we always want to make sure that we're prepared, so that when success comes and it looks like luck, it's not luck, because we've done our hard work. And this, starts from, and with my clients, this is what we do. We start out with the foundation. Number one, we want to make sure that we have our positioning right. So who exactly is our ideal clients, ideal customer? Who is that one person? Can we define them to the very T, such that when we talk about them, they're like, yeah, that's me. We want to make sure we do that work. And then number two is we want to define the specific problem they have and don't want. And we want to define the specific solution they're looking for but don't have. And we want to define the headache we're helping them avoid using our solution. And then once we've done that work, we then want to build an offer that really, really makes them happy. And when I talk about offers, there are two types of offer. There's a vitamin offer and there's a painkiller offer. So a vitamin offer is like, yeah, have your vitamins, sure, but I'm not going to die if I don't have my vitamins, right? And a lot of businesses, they have offers like that. And a painkiller offer is like, I'm having a big migraine right now. I'll pay you whatever amount of money I need to get this problem off of me. And so what I do is I help my clients move their offer from a vitamin solution, which is like, whatever, to yes, this is the real problem for me. And then once we've built that offer, then the next thing is we need to have a way of then nurturing people who come to us. So if someone through our position and say, that's me you're talking about, and then through the offer, they're like, yeah, that's a big headache you're solving for me, but I'm not ready to do business yet. I don't trust you yet. I don't like you yet, blah, blah, blah. Which is completely fine. We need to have a way to like nurture them, to get them to know us. That's where content creation comes in. That's where having a funnel comes in. That's where email marketing comes in. So we create a funnel and a pipeline where we can able to bring them in at the top of a funnel and then nurture them, warm them up to do business with us. And then beyond that, we then need a tight sales process. So whether that's you having a tight sales script or having like a tight copying your sales outreach to them, so that you can then convert them into customers. And then beyond that, once you're able to convert them, you need to provide a world-class experience, because that's how they'll come back to become repeat customers, and that's how they'll tell their friends and family about you. And once you do all of those things in the background, then we can then go crazy on the leads part, because now we know that if we bring them in, we have all the sequences and all the steps built to get them from cold to raving fans. And then we can rinse and repeat. So that's basically what I build for my clients. And then, of course, at the top of it, you always say lead gen. But before we go on top of all those lead gen, we make sure that we have all of this work in the background figured out, and then we can go hard on lead gen, and we can do everything from Facebook ads to TikTok ads to organic campaigns. And recently I do a lot of LinkedIn campaigns, which have been working very, very well. And of course we do cold email campaigns as well, which has been very, very, very good as well, and even texting campaigns. So lots of outreach in marketing. That's actually the easy part. The hard part is when you bring them in, okay, how do you then convert them into a paying customer from them not knowing you?
One question that we've asked, like we've had social media marketers on the show as well, the difference between organic and inorganic, you could say, like advertising. what would you say you value more, like in terms of actually building a sustainable audience?
Right. So you in this day and age, you need a combination of both, right? You would be responsible to say one is better over the other. But I would say you want to start out with organic first. And the reason why you want to start out with organic is number one, you're not spending too much money. And number two, a lot of new business owners don't really have that budget to begin with. But organic helps you to learn also. It helps you to learn who your ideal audience is. It helps you to learn what your problems are. It helps you to tweak, test different things without having to pay expensively to learn those things. And then what I do for my clients is that we start out with the organic, we start out with cold emails, we start out with LinkedIn marketing, we start out with organic content. And then once we learn all the ins and outs of our ideal clients and we understand exactly how we can help them and we see some success, then we can then scale that. Remember I talked about leverage? We can then leverage all the things we've learned using technology and social media. Of course, paid ads being one of those. But you now know that all these things are tried and tested in the organic world already. And if we double down on it by paying, the risk is less because we've tried and tested it. Where a lot of people make mistakes is they go right into testing things on paid, which is fine if you have the money. I mean, go ahead. Facebook will happily take your money.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people who don't have money, that can become very expensive very, very quickly. And then they get no result and they think everything doesn't work because all they did was just, they were trying to learn while paying for it, which is a very expensive way to learn.
People can listen to this audio and they can write down notes while they're listening to it, but then when they go and apply it, they have no idea. So my goal for this episode, when I heard we're bringing on a coach, like a business coach, was to get a solid example. So if you will, let's build an example right now. For example, you want to start a clothing company.
Right.
Let's lay out the foundation for the viewers and the listeners out there. How do you start that?
Okay.
What would be step number one?
Good question. So number one, you need to understand, why am I even starting this in the first place, right? Am I trying to make a statement, a political statement, a cultural statement? Like, what am I trying to do, right? You need to understand that, number one. And then once you understand why you're trying to do it, then that helps you understand your positioning. So how am I going to, who are my ideal audience? Who's my niche? Are they young university students? Are they high school students? Are they older people? Are they sports fanatics? Who are those kind of people? You need to be able to clearly understand those people. And then you need to be able to understand how your message will help them either solve a problem or achieve some sort of solution. Solve a problem means just literally going to put clothes on your back, or we're going to help you dress more formally or whatever. Or solution means we're going to help you feel hip. We're going to help you feel more culturally relevant, or we're going to help you feel like you belong to this clique of people. So you need to be able to find all of that's the positioning. And then once you've done that, they need to find a great product. So how do you source your product? So whether you're doing drop shipping, or whether you need to figure out a way to actually then get the actual products. And then once you've done that, then you need to find a way to then spread your message, right? And that's where social media will come in, right? You have to be able to then articulate all of those things you've done in the foundation, who you're speaking to, what message you're trying to pass across, and what outcome you're trying to help them understand. You need to be able to articulate all of those things in social media, and that's the organic game. And then you're trying and testing, you're seeing how people are reacting to whatever it is you're saying. And then once you find the right fit, where you're like, okay, people are actually resonating with this message, they want to be more cultural, they want to be more hip, or they just want to look more corporate and more professional, then the question is, how can I scale that up now? And then there are a lot of ways you can scale that up. Of course, you can do a lot of joint venture partnerships where you go partner up with other businesses who are not direct competitors to you, but who serve that same ideal customer that you serve. And then you're like, okay, how can I tap into your customers, but you also get something for it? So, for example, if you go to a bookstore, you will see a Starbucks shop there, because people who like to read, they like to drink Starbucks as well. But they're not direct competitors, but they kind of harmonize with each other. So you want to find those kind of partnerships to have for your clothing line. And then once you've done that, then you're starting to then have a lot more customers, because you're buying into other people's audience and not just relying on the audience you're trying to build. You're buying into other people's audience. And then, of course, you want to have all of those conversion techniques in the background. So, if they come in as a lead, do you have a way to nurture them? Do you have a way to get them to be warm? All of that fun stuff that we discussed earlier. And after that, after you've started to get some success and some traction, and the question is, how do you scale this more significantly? That's where paid ads will then come into play. And then you can then go hard on paid ads based on all the revenue you've already collected by those partnerships. What I find that joint venture partnerships, especially for a clothing line, is one of the fastest ways you can grow, because you're just borrowing other people's audience, really. Right. And you're adding value to their audience through your own product. And maybe you might lose a few bucks here and there doing that kind of partnership, but you're getting the traction you need, which is really, really crucial for you to scale up very, very quickly. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Very
Of course.
informative.
Yeah.
Very informative. Wow. Okay, well, it's 2022, right? And people are going to watch this 2022, 23, around this area. What do you think's the best business to start these days, right? Because people will say, oh, certain markets are too saturated. Oh, I can't do that. There's too many people in there. That's old-fashioned. Nobody wants to read a newspaper anymore. I can't start a newspaper brand. Right? So in 2022 or 2023, what's the best business to start, especially with this whole crypto world and all these NFTs, and I'm sure you're a little bit familiar with those, or a lot familiar with those. So what's the best business to start for someone?
Any business, really. Any business. And the reason why I say any business is because today the barrier for entering the business world is reduced dramatically, which is great, because what I mean by that is, 40, 50 years ago, if you want to start a business, you need a lot of money, lots of investment, and there's just so many barriers to start a business. But right now with social media, you can literally start anything you want. That is why it defaults to those 3P framework I talked about. The passion. You got to be very interested in this business for starters, because no matter how smart you are, it's not going to take off right away. Except maybe you're Elon Musk or something. But there's always going to be that learning period where you are still figuring things out and it's not working. And it's the passion that keeps you going at that point. And then you have to link that passion to a problem. And then once you link it to a problem, you have to add your own personal perspective. So it's a combination of all of those three things. So it doesn't matter what the business is. No one can be more you than you. And if you can find a way to fuse your passion. So if you're interested in coding, great, then go do something in that line. If you're interested in clothing, right, or in shoes, like, it doesn't matter what it is. Right now, the opportunities are there for us to scale, which is social media. Anyone can hear your message. Whether it's, finding the right people it could literally be anywhere in the world. You have access to a few billion people. So it doesn't matter what the business you're trying to do is. There's someone out there who needs it, who wants to hear your voice. So I wouldn't worry more about what business to start as opposed to, how do I want to feel about this business? Is this something I'm passionate about? Why am I doing this? Is this something because I would do this even if I was paid for it or not paid for it? And I think that's where the source of real solid businesses are from. So it doesn't matter what it is, because there's such a global audience that there's someone out there who wants what you offer. It's just a matter of finding them and speaking to them.
No, I definitely agree with that. What about the whole crypto world?
Yeah,
right. Like, and that being business, like, we've seen some real estate now being sold in the metaverse for $600,000.
Right.
Yeah.
So adapting like a traditional business that it works now, how would that work in the future?
Yeah. So, one of the things, the way I look at crypto is I look at it from a philosophical point of view as a shift. So, so imagine, 100 years ago, or maybe more than 100 years ago, we were in the age of, some people call it oligarchs, but that's not really, we call it the monarchy, right? So in the monarchy, in times of monarchy, you had the kings and the queens. They have control over everything. And then the rest of the population, were just dead. They did not have any control. And right now, that is what social media is right now. So we call it Web 2.0. So you have your Facebook, the Googles of the world, and all those big tech companies. They have a centralized storage, so they control everything. And they make all the money, and we do not. So they make money through ads. They make money by having you create content and people watching that content. And then, of course, they put in the ads in the middle of all that. That's how they make money. And the problem with that approach is that it's very one-sided. Only one party is benefiting from this partnership, from this network. We are not benefiting from it. I don't see Facebook paying me for creating content. Now, of course, there's like YouTube that does that a little bit, but for the most part, that's what Web 2.0 is doing. Web 3.0, what Web 3.0 is doing is decentralizing that control. Instead of one centralized party having all that control, is basically giving control to everybody. So see it as we're going from monarchy to democracy. Where instead of a king and a queen having all this control, now we can all come together and say, you know what, this is our shared value. This is how we're going to allocate resources. This is how we're going to allocate rewards. And that is one of the very big, powerful nature of this crypto world. So, of course, the cryptocurrency is what's making all the noise right now. And I think we're in this phase. If you look at the .com bubble, we're sort of in that sort of bubble right now where everybody is like, oh, this is amazing. We're going to like create this new coin. We're going to do all these crazy things. Some of these coins will stay. Some of these NFTs will stay. But a lot of these projects will actually go to zero. What I'm also interested in is the underlying technology at sort of a basic level, which is how are we going to share control amongst everybody and have everybody else have more equal access to this new opportunity. And so if you're interested in how this could be a source of revenue, a source of a new business, you have to think about it in those terms. Is now control is being shared and equalized. How can I take advantage of that for my business? How can I use these to take advantage? So, for example, the way to look at this more practically would be NFTs, for example. One of the ideas I've been toying around is NFTs as a receipt for a business owner.
Yeah.
So if you find a way to have an NFT as a receipt to show proof, but also to show exclusivity or to show or to offer like different types of features for, hey, you buy this NFT, so you buy my products and I'll give you an NFT, and you can have different types of rarity of this NFTs you're getting as a receipt, which could be a collectible in the future, or it could be a proof of ownership of my products in the future because it's digital, so the blockchain, you can't delete it, you can't lose it. There's so many benefits here, and the idea is, again, you're having people being able to share more in your product and being a fan of yours. And that's just a very, very different way to look at business as opposed to being very centralized where you have all the control and no one else has any say. But that's how I think about NFTs and crypto. We're moving from a monarchy to democracy. And that is very, very powerful.
That is very powerful because I've never heard that before, right? Like people are like, oh, crypto, you just got to go into it. Like you're going to make money no matter what. Yeah. And I'm like, are you really sure you're going to make money? Like, there's a lot of cryptos out there. Like, I get DMs every day saying, oh, you should join my NFT, you should join my Discord. But do you really think that's the future? Like, do you think the digital world will surpass our reality of what life is? Like, I could put on a pair of goggles or something and I could have the best life ever. And then when I take those off, I'm sitting in the present moment. Do you think that would ever be a reality?
I think that's where we're going. If we're not there already, I mean, think about this. You see how some people, a lot of people I know, maybe even myself sometimes, when I'm going on my online, when I'm doing an Instagram live, or when I'm trying to create a content, I'm dressing so well. I'm like, all in my fancy suits, and then when I go to the grocery store, I just dress like whatever.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. I can't imagine you walking around in sweats. Not gonna lie.
But that's the reality, and that's when we talk about having the metaverse. That's what the metaverse is our digital lives taking more and more where things matter more in our digital lives than in our actual real lives. And unfortunately, that's just the reality of how things are going. So I see that as a trend, and that's only going to accelerate even more. The pandemic has made that even more so, with work from home now being the norm. I mean, I've been working from home for the last 2 years now, and a lot of people who build their reputation or talk about their branding or their product, do all of that stuff online. That's how they actually make their living. So they consider their online lives to be way, way more important. They have to make up the appearances, which, there's a whole downside to that, but they have to keep up all that appearances online. And then their real world, their normal life is like, whatever. No, I don't care if someone doesn't see me with my makeup on, or if someone doesn't see me with my suit on. And that's just basically the way the world is going to move forward in the future. Digital is going to be the new king, and everything is going to go digital as well. I mean, I've been toying around with a business idea I'm working on in the crypto world about digital records. For example, imagine if medical records are now online, or you go to your chiropractor, and your chiropractor now they have all the records of everything for you online, and there's a sort of a way to access it through tokens where you decide to go to a dentist or a chiropractor, and instead of them going to your original chiropractor to get all of that information, they can then just use this digitized access to records to just say, oh yeah, I have access. So everything from IDs to records to all sorts of information is going digital, and that's the way of the world, and that's the metaverse, and all of that stuff is gonna keep going even more accelerated in the next couple of years.
I'm excited for it.
It's exciting.
I mean, we're living in that world, so why not? Why not?
In the future, that's for sure.
Exactly. As far as advice goes, right? I know you give a lot out, and all the stuff you're saying is very informative.
Yeah.
But and we've got someone. Most of our audience is a little younger. We do have an older audience as well, but as let's say someone our age. What advice would you give us? Yeah,
for sure. So I will repeat some of the things I've said because sometimes the repetition demands emphasis, right? And I'll give like 2 advices. I like advices.
Yeah, I love that.
So the first one is for success. It's built on 3 tripods, right? And we talked about accountability.
Yeah.
And I think it's very crucial that you learn accountability. and that's having some skin in the game. You always gotta have skin in the game. You have to put your name behind whatever it is you're doing if you want to be successful. Now you will fail sometimes, and that's just part of the experience, and that's very normal. I failed. Everyone who's great has failed, but you need to have some accountability in whatever business venture or whatever it is you're trying to do in your career. Put your name behind it. Create a post, create a blog that says, "This is me. This is who I am. This is what I stand for." Always be willing to do that, because the upsides are that if you make the right call, you make the right impression, that could lead to some amazing opportunities. Now the downside is, of course, you could get some flack, you get some hate, but that's part of it as well. So that's first. Second thing is you need to find ways to scale and leverage. And remember, I talked about those 4 levers of leverage. Code, technology, always very powerful. So if you don't know how to code, that's okay, but be comfortable or find friends that can code or know people who can code for you and get your ideas into code, because that's a huge leverage. Second one is, of course, social media. That's an easy part. Everyone is on social media. Learn to use social media. Your phone is the most powerful device ever. Learn to use it for business, to propagate your ideas, to connect, to network, to meet new people. And then the third thing is, of course, labor. Find ways to delegate things. You don't have to do everything. And I know you don't, you might think, oh, yeah, no, I'm not a big entrepreneur yet. I can't hire someone. But you have to act like an entrepreneur. You have to act like someone who is big, and that will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if you want to be, for example, I have someone I have hired to do some of my content work for me, because I just believe that I am that person who would delegate my content, my posts and all that stuff to somebody. And you need to think of yourself like that. And in James Clear's, habits, Atomic Habits, it talked about being this person you want to become by doing those small things every day. And acting like somebody who is successful inevitably will lead to success. So using labor to scale is also crucial. And then, of course, capital, finding money. And that can probably be out of reach for some people for now, and that's completely okay. But finding ways to know people who have access to capital through networking, always powerful. And then, of course, the last thing is then judgment. And judgment is where you rely on mentors, you rely on experts, you listen to all types of advice, you read a lot of books. And judgment is more of it's a nuanced journey, because the more you know, the more experiences you have, the better your judgment will be. And this is why CEOs get paid a lot. They get paid for their judgment, because if you're a CEO and you're managing $100 million asset and you make a decision that is 10% right, that $100 million could mean $50 million more. And that is where honing your judgments by having the right experiences and the right mentorship is very, very crucial. So that's one part of it. Having those 3 stands is really crucial for business. Now, when it comes to more personal side, I talked about the 3P framework. And the first P is, having a passion. So whatever it is you're working on, you got to be passionate about that. Otherwise, you just fall off and you just flake off, because you're not really that passionate about it. As you can clearly tell, I'm very passionate about business. I can talk about business all day and marketing all day. That's my bread and butter. Even if I'm not getting paid for it, I'm going to keep reading about it. I'm going to keep being obsessed about it. And then the second thing is be able to convert your passion into a problem for a real person. Otherwise, you're just making noise. Right. Everyone is always thinking, what's in it for me? You have to be able to clearly answer that question. This is what's in it for you. This is how my passion can help you solve a real problem and make your life a little bit better. And that is always very powerful. And then the last piece, your perspective as well. You always have your own way of doing things, your own talent, your own history. You have to be able to connect your passion and a problem and infuse your own personal magic in there, because that's what makes it unique. It's what makes it not duplicable. And once you are able to be original and authentic, because that's part of authenticity, then you have a big, big magic that no one else can replicate. And those are the keys to success.
Wow. I like that. I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
What are some of your goals, like personally, right? Like, are we sitting amongst the next Elon Musk? Like, I want to know. Yeah. Like, what are some of your goals, and where do you see yourself in the next coming years?
You're too kind, my friend. I have some big goals though, man. And sometimes I tell my friends about my goals and they'll laugh. But my ultimate goal is space mining, man. Space mining. I'm of the belief that we can find resources that will benefit Earth out in space.
100%.
Sorry?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So have you seen the show, what's it called again? So it's this show about space, and basically the idea is that, there are resources out there, in the minerals out there, in the Milky Way, in the galaxy, all over there. And I believe that there are ways that we can go out there and mine those materials and bring them back to earth. But that's like a long term goal. So my short term goals though is I'm working on building companies in the crypto space. I believe that will be very, very key. Okay. And of course, right now, what I'm doing immediately right now is, of course, working with small business owners and service-based businesses to help them grow. But I believe that the crypto space is going to be where I get a lot of leverage, because if you build, and that's what I'm working on right now, the coding part. If you build coding, one of my companies right now is gonna be a tool to help anyone create an NFT or to create a token without having to write code. So that's going to be an interesting tool that I'm working on. And of course, I'm also very much interested in digital records and using tokenized access to those digital records. I think that's also going to be crucial. But in the long term, when I think about, when I document and I write this 10, 15, 20-year goals for myself, I think space mining is really where things at. And that's sort of what I have my eyes fixed on. So
you're literally quite figuratively going to be the next Elon Musk.
Well, he's gonna be the first David Owasi.
Right. Well, that's the goal. You gotta dream big or go home. And there's something I always think about. It's like, for you to be successful, whether you're running a small grocery store, or whether you're running $100 billion corporation, you're not working any less, really. Like, the person who's working at a grocery store and doing 8, 10, even sometimes even 13 hours, they're not working any less than someone who's running $100 billion empire, right? They're just working as hard, except that their scale is much smaller, except that the leverage they have is much smaller when you're running a grocery store company compared to a $100 billion enterprise. So for me, it's like, I'm going to work hard. I'm going to go into that pain. So if I'm going to go into that pain, I might as well go into the pain for something that's so big and audacious. Because I'm not going to work any less harder if I do something small. If you're running a small company, it's not any less work than someone running a big company. And that's kind of how I look at the world, is dream big. And, sometimes you will fail, and that's part of the process. But you got to dream big first, and then the success will follow.
And if people don't laugh at your ideas, then your idea is not right.
Exactly. It's not big enough.
Yeah, it's not big enough.
It's not big enough.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Keep dreaming, keep growing, keep rising. And on that note, I think this is the perfect way to end off the podcast. If you haven't already, make sure to check out David. We'll tag everything in the description below. We're live every Tuesday morning at 11:30 a.m. on the UMFM radio station, 101.5 FM. Until next time, peace.
Let's go. Woo. Thank you so much, David.